wait for it, it's the Nolan Current Night Show, inviting you to join Nolan as guest this week, Michael Andersen with the show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Nolan. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the show. And joining me is another person who holds similar not interests, but qualities and other things of that nature with me. He is a fellow Rhode Island Ram, a fellow graduate. He was part of one of the greatest teams, or playing with some of the greatest players of all time in Rhodey history. He is also a tech mind. He is the one and only Mr. Michael Andersen. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much.
Well, as I said earlier, thank you for doing this. I'm sure you're a busy man, but I want to start with this before we get down to the nitty gritty. These are interesting times, some hectic times we found ourselves in the last few years. And I know with the business you have Onsite Techs, you do a lot of remote work, but during this time, what's it been like for you experiencing it all?
Yeah, it didn't really change much for my business because we were pretty much almost 100% remote before. So eliminating on-site, it's kind of funny how we have the name of the company is Onsite Techs and we don't go on-site at all. Pretty much. It's very, very rare. We do go in once in a while, but yeah, most of the tech stuff these days can be done remotely as long as you have an internet connection that's running. So it didn't really change much for us.
During this time, and I strongly believe that it's a time that we all be able to reflect and sort of learn more about ourselves. So what has Michael Andersen learned about himself that he didn't know prior to this whole pandemic?
That I actually enjoy walking. Before the pandemic, I would always yell at my wife and says, "Why are we walking? It doesn't do anything for you."
Sure.
And then I discovered walking. Ended up walking 5 miles a day, and I've done that ever since the pandemic started. So I ended up losing a bunch of weight, and there was a good side effect of doing all this walking. And I'm probably in the physically, like body fat wise, I'm probably in an even better shape than I was ever playing basketball. Now my joints can't do what I used to be able to do, but yeah, body fat wise, I'm probably in the best shape of my life. But obviously, all the stuff that takes to be a basketball player, I can't. My body can't take it anymore.
Sure. Well, I'm sure even now at the age you're at and haven't played competitively, maybe as serious as you were in college or and professionally, a much better player than I'm more of a rec player myself, so I'm nowhere near that. And I'm sure during this time also, you just mentioned the physical transformation you've been able to take, but also to be able to see your son play in person and not having a season canceled. Two of my sisters both play basketball, or both played in high school, one's still in high school. So I know of that situation of being able to see relatives play stuff and of that nature, and it gives you a greater appreciation for those small things like walking. Now, you see a lot of URI players since your time there, and if not a little before then, with the Silk Owens and Tom Garrick and Kenny Greens, where a lot of URI players find opportunity to play basketball, maybe not just in the NBA, but overseas, and they have successful careers, such as yourself winning 2 Polish championships and playing for nearly a decade. And you just said that you didn't start till 18 playing basketball. Was there any concept or paying attention to overseas basketball where you were living, or was that just not in your peripheral vision?
Only in a local, like to play pro, you mean?
Yeah, like
no. Michael, I had no idea that I was going to be able to play professional basketball. That happened my junior year of college. I was playing with the Danish national team in a tournament in Iceland. And that year, the rules in Europe changed so that European people with European passports would not count as foreigners in all European leagues. So now, all of a sudden, we wouldn't be taking up a spot because you can only have 2 foreigners on a team. So we wouldn't count as a spot anymore. And that just opened up the floodgates for European players to be able to go all over Europe. And I was actually offered a contract my junior year, and I called up my assistant coach, Bill Cohen, and said, "Bill, I got this offer for $250,000. Tell me why I I shouldn't take it and just leave URI. And he said, well, that money will always be there and you get an education. And it was so happened that I really loved
Sure,
going to URI and I went back.
sure. What I laugh about with people who I've had on here from URI that sort of share their story on here, which I've been fortunate enough to listen to, a lot of them have said that they had no idea about URI, no idea where Rhode Island was on the map, didn't know the school existed. So, what was that process like for you, knowing URI was offering you a spot on their team and Al Skinner and that whole process during college admission?
All I knew about URI was the video he showed me that they had made, and it looked like they had some nice beaches. He showed me that they had been to the tournament the year before, but besides that, I knew nothing about Rhode Island. I didn't even know there was a state called Rhode Island at that time. I finally researched that a little bit and found out it was the smallest one,
Yes,
um, and it was close to New York and Boston, and that's really all I cared about. It was all
sure.
close to the big cities. All right.
Yeah. Do you think that, and if I ask this question to others, I'll be interested to hear your answer to this. Do you think that gave you a greater appreciation for the opportunity you got there, knowing that you didn't really know of URI or what happened previously with them?
Yeah, I was just excited to come into the States. Somebody was going to give me a free ride to come to the States and go to college and do all the things I'd seen in movies. Basically, all I knew about the States was what I'd seen in the movies. So
Sure.
uh, I say this all the time. Like what I saw on movies and TV was like that. I just fell in love
Wow.
with the States and wanted to go there, and
Interesting.
was very lucky to get an opportunity to come.
You alluded to and mentioned 7 feet tall, which is something that would think would help someone basketball wise very much, and someone who's one of the star players of the team. Before the season starts, and you may mention this in other interviews you might have done, what conversations did you have with Al Skinner in terms of what you were going to be helping the team do right from the get-go?
Well, first of all, I wasn't even going to be playing my freshman
Oh
year.
wow.
The plan was all along to probably do a redshirt year,
Okay.
but then unfortunately there was the two big guys that was there before me, Demont Collins and Kyle Ivan Jones, were ruled ineligible. Demont came back halfway through, I think, but I think Kyle didn't play that year at all. So I had to play. So
Okay.
I was just thrown in the fire and I think started almost all the games my freshman year,
Oh wow.
and basically had to learn the American style of play
Sure.
just by playing it. So yeah, I played Tim Duncan that year.
Yeah.
That's,
Wow.
yeah.
That situation brings me to my next question. Learning the American style, and you're playing nearly, if not all, the games that year, your freshman year. That process for you, how accepting were you of the patience you need to have in order to learn that skill quickly, translating from when you were playing overseas before college?
Oh, it was just coming over and just I was by myself. I didn't really have any friends, so my first year was basically going to the gym, work out, lift some weights, get stronger because I was only 240
Oh
pounds when
wow.
I got to college. I was 300 when I left
Wow.
4 years later. So back then the A10 was a lot of big guys. It was
Sure.
Alexander Cool, Mark Jackson, Yinka Dare was my freshman year. So all centers except for Marcus Camby were all very big and very heavy. So I had to quickly gain some muscle
Sure.
and gain some weight to be able to compete with them.
That that's you did an interview with Your View Sports a few years ago with Chris Desano and sort of your story and what you've gone through to lead up to here. And you talked about it talked about your freshman year transition to then your sophomore year, how it's statistically you greatly improved across the board, where you were working out often by yourself on your fundamentals and really improving that year. And the team's building now a solid foundation. The team had graduated a bunch of seniors, and now you're having a bigger role, piece of the pie for that team. For you, though, to make that improvement, why was it important for you to work on all those fundamental skills you talked about in the interview? shooting 3-pointers as a big center. Was that really important for you to really work on those individual skills?
Well, not so much the 3-pointers. Coach Skinner did not want me to shoot threes, but shooting from the outside and shooting from the key for sure, shooting the short corner for sure. All those shots that are now not that valuable. If you look at like statistically wise, nobody wants you to shoot those shots anymore because
Sure.
there's not as high percentage or doesn't give you reward you as much as a 3-pointer does. So the analytics say don't take that shot, right? But at the time, that became my shot, like the little short corner on the baseline, and it just ended up being my go-to spot where I knew I was going to get a good shot. And then yeah, being encouraged by Coach Bill Cohen, who's now at Northeastern, he was the one who every day was like, let's go work out, let's do these, let's go through all the post moves. And it just became like a habit of going and doing that every day and just going through all the moves every day. And then go down on the shoot. We had a shooting machine that had been made by the engineering department at the time. Back then we didn't have the gun, all those fancy ones.
Sure.
That they had jerry rigged some shooting machine and just go down there and get a bunch of shots up. And I really think that really just helped me develop that soft shot from the baseline.
Your junior year, you guys, I don't want to jump too far ahead with that, but junior year, you guys have a very successful year. Then the senior year, very successful year again, making the big dance against Purdue. But you're leading into your sophomore year, then into your junior year, the team is starting to build momentum in terms of really being a unit. You're really building from the foundation up. With that situation, you being really kind of maybe the only true person playing at the center position, not maybe a forward playing center. But when you were getting better and moving up into the team situation, were you ready to take a bigger role, a leadership role almost for that team as they were getting better?
I never really thought about it. It just happened. It was basically coach said, "Oh yeah, now you're a captain." I think it was my senior year. I was a captain. So it was never like discussed on how to lead. It was just you just go out and
Sure,
just work hard and show by example. And we had a really good group. Like we didn't really have any egos.
sure,
Uh, it just everything felt natural. It wasn't like or he shouldn't be getting playing time. And it just, to me, it just seemed natural. This is just the way it was.
sure.
And there was not really any discussion about how to be a leader of what we should be doing. It just, everybody just went out and did their work and did what the coaches told us to do. And it worked out.
Well, it's a real, and this is just from a fan's perspective, but it's a real different type of, I don't want to say conversation, but different image of the teams now recently compared to maybe your class and Antonio Reynolds Dean, that group, and other groups where they're really together. There's no egos. There's no one
Yeah.
there who's saying, I'm better than you and I should get all this time, because now you see kids transferring all the time.
Yeah,
And,
let's get started on that because I
no,
don't like that at
no,
all.
I won't touch that. But and then you see nowadays U or I where they get down fast, and then there's nobody to help them get
Right.
back up. And I'm sure in your class there were a lot of people, and not just Cuttino or Tyson or Antonio, that are leading the charge to get people pumped up, but everyone's doing that together. So it's always good to hear teams, regardless if they're successful year or the following year, to know that we're all good and we're all in it together, and we're all going to do our job for that. Your third year, your junior year, you guys make this transition from 7-20 to 20-14 as a team record, and you just success is now here. Could you tell at any point prior to the season, or maybe at the beginning of the season, that now you guys can really do some damage, or was that just never able to be seen?
No, because if you look at all the games that we lost, a lot of the games that we lost at my sophomore year were very close games. There was very, it was more like we got blown out every single game. There were a
Sure,
lot of them were very close, and we just didn't get it done. So I knew that if we could just improve just a little bit, we would be pretty good. And it
sure,
turned out that that's what the difference was that junior year where we just got over that little hump and we won those close games that we had lost
sure.
the year before. So yeah, that sophomore year was very tough because I think at one point we were close to breaking the record for most losses in a
Oh
row,
wow.
and we didn't want that. So finally,
Sure.
luckily we didn't make that history book entry. But yeah, no, there was a few games where like after the season, we're like, look at us. We lost this game by one. We lost this game by three. We were so close, like 4 or 5 games, and all of a sudden we don't have a bad season, like right. So it wasn't like we were ever in a panic or like, oh,
Sure.
this is going to be horrible next year too. And of course, the coaches did a great job bringing in very good players
Sure.
that year, very good freshmen.
That that year you guys have a lot of success. As I said, at the beginning of the season, you lose a close one to number one ranked UMass, 69-74. And then you have also near the beginning of the season a away win against Temple. When I was talking to Antonio, he was part of the group who has a winning record against Temple, which other years and other classes that when Temple was still in the A10 didn't
Right.
have that. But when you guys are finding that success, did you find it hard for maybe not just yourself, but for the team to make sure you're staying level headed and not letting that success get to your head?
Again, it just was. There was never like any discussion about, oh, we're so good, and we're like we went out and had fun and played. It was basically just, let's just go play and have fun. Just do what we're supposed to do, and things will work themselves out. It was never, I never ever laid around and thought, oh, we're so good.
Sure.
We're gonna make. I did think we were that we can come to that when we go to we're talking about the NCAA tournament. I thought we were seated a little low, but
Sure.
it turned it we got in, and that was
Sure.
fantastic.
That your junior year, you guys make it to the third round of the NIT tournament and then you guys lose to a close or a game against St. Joe's. Prior to the NIT tournament, did you guys think that you guys would be making the NCAA tournament? And when that didn't happen, how did you react to playing in the NIT tournament?
We thought we had a good shot at getting in, but we also knew we were probably on the bubble. Uh, and then we were like, okay, we didn't get in. Let's make the best we can do of the situation, and it was fun to be in that tournament too.
Sure.
It was just a great experience and prepared us for the next year.
That NIT tournament run, you guys have a close win and double overtime against the College of Charlestown, and then you go off to play St. Joe's. After that win against Charlestown, how confident did you guys think that St. Joe's you might be able to take to the woodshed and beat them?
Well, we were always confident every game.
Sure.
It was, we never thought that we didn't have it. There was never a game where we didn't think we had a chance of winning, right?
Sure.
So we would just go in like, okay, look, if we play our best, we have a good shot of beating anybody in the country, but basically. Um, so that was our mindset, was just go out and play hard. Let's try to execute the game plan that the coaches had come up with, and do what we're supposed to do with our matchups, and we will have a good chance of beating pretty much anybody. Like we
Sure.
never, it was never like a joint feeling that, oh, this is going to be, we're not going to have a chance. There was never
Sure.
that. It was always, oh, we're going to go out and play hard and see how it goes.
Sure. See, I just asked you about the team's confidence and mindset going to your junior, telling if there was any availability of real success changing around. Senior year, you guys do even better, the NCAA tournament year. Did the game plan change at all leading into your senior year before the season started, or was it the same thing? We're really going to be able to do stuff?
Same thing. Just keep doing what we know works for us, and execute the game plans. I hate to say the same thing over and over again, but that's basically what it was.
Sure.
It's just go do what you could do best each individually, and let's do what we do well as a
Sure.
team, and execute as best as we could.
Early in the season, there's a tough loss against 18th ranked Texas, and then you guys kill PC away at PC, which is almost a rare thing nowadays at URI when PC decides to play them. What was that like to beat PC there, but also in terms of difference between Texas and PC?
Yeah, Texas was very good, and we played Texas in Texas. It's a very, very tough place to win, and we didn't play our best game there at all. But the PC game is a funny story. Somehow, some PC fans got my phone number and harassed me that whole week. The whole week, they're like, "Oh, this guy is gonna kill you. This guy is gonna do this to you," and I just got it all built up inside of me, and we went out and we beat them. And after that game, I quoted, I think I had some quote book that somebody had given me, and I quoted something at the press conference because it just meant so much to me that we beat them. Um, and they were a great team that year.
Sure.
I think that's the year they went to the Final Four, right? So, um, it's that rivalry, and it's funny now because I see Coach Cooley once in a while. My son attended the PC camp a couple of times. I said, and I've been up to the campus. I said, I'm walking on enemy territory. I can't
Yeah.
even believe I'm here. And
Sure.
my son doesn't understand it,
Sure.
what it felt like, because the rivalry and the intensity of those games were so high, so much
Sure.
higher than any other game, that is just like, it almost feels like, even when I talk to PC fans now, kind of feel like they're like
Sure.
hostile. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, so
Sure.
I don't know if that the players of today feel the same way.
Sure.
I don't think they have the same
Yeah.
experience, because back then it was personal.
Sure.
It really was.
And probably back then, and maybe not, players knew of what it meant back then, and that they knew of the previous success that URI has had and what that's like. And nowadays, you don't necessarily see that at URI, where they know what this means and what this rivalry means and what
Right.
every game means. But that's conversation another. Hopefully Archie Miller helps the team realize how serious it
Right.
may need to get. You guys, as I mentioned, a winning record against Temple, that maybe just that year or in general. There's an OT game, you beat them, then a home win, you guys beat them a close one, and then finish that year 6-1, or the last 7 games 6-1. What was it like playing Temple then, and especially when the games are close with a John Chaney led team, seeing as he had success there?
So after PC, then the Temple games were probably the most intense. And I remember playing against Mark Jackson, this mean center from Temple, who ended up playing. He played in the NBA for a little bit, but we played them at Temple, and where how you shake hands before the game. And I tried to shake his hand. He said, I don't know you. And I'm like, oh, all right. So I ended up, I had like a bunch, like I think like 14, 15 rebounds,
Wow.
and a few points. And then after he came, he's like, okay, now I know you. And we beat them. And I was like, yeah, now you know me.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like John Chaney, the legend, like think about all the coaches that were in the A10 back then. It was John Chaney, Calipari, Coach Skinner. They're all intense coaches. Um, so, the game was totally different then. The
Sure.
A10 was totally different then. It was very, very hard nosed basketball being played back then.
Sure.
And, and every game was intense, but especially the Temple games, because we hadn't beat them for so long at Temple. It was just a big accomplishment that year, and that really showed us that we had something special
Sure.
going on.
Winning against Temple is one thing during the regular season, but then beating them during the postseason and the
Right.
conference tournament is another thing. What was that experience like, beating them after Virginia Tech?
It was just, again, like we knew we could do it, but the fact that we actually did it was amazing,
Sure.
and just emphasized in our minds that we belonged, and we might have a shot of going to the NCAA tournament and hopefully do some damage there. We got very close to moving on, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. But
Sure.
it was an amazing experience to go.
That situation if not besides the runs when Dan Hurley was here as well in the last few times. Oh, actually, no, the year after they went to NCAA tournament as well. Looking back at the experience compared to then, how do you accept the final result?
Do I accept it?
Oh no, or like the how do you look back at it now compared to then?
Oh, it still haunts me because I had a putback shot off a Tyson Wheeler missed shot at the end of the regulation. If I make that, we win and don't go into overtime. Um, and we would have gone on to play, I think, Kansas in the second round. Um, we ended up going. I miss it. We go into overtime, and Purdue beats us. I don't know by like 6 or 8 points.
Sure,
But yeah, we were so close, and the fact that I had the last shot still haunts me to this day. That
sure,
if that goes in, things are different,
sure.
and how different we don't know, but that didn't happen.
Yeah. I asked you earlier a few times about what Al Skinner spoke to you about in terms of your production and what you would provide to the team. What translated from what he taught you to your first few years overseas as a player?
Well, my first year in Greece was totally different. I had a coach that I couldn't understand and always swore at me. Big contrast to Coach Skinner that barely ever yelled at you. And when he yelled at you, you knew you had done something wrong.
Sure,
Uh, Going to Greece that year was like basically the coach. He was a very respected coach, and we did go to the European finals that year. But totally different ways of coaching. A lot of screaming, a lot of swearing, and it took me a while to get used to
sure,
uh, because Coach Skinner was way more laid back, but laid back in a way where he still let you know when you had done something
sure,
wrong, but not necessarily constantly uh, berating you.
sure. You said at the beginning of this your adjustment to the American style of basketball. European basketball, maybe at the professional level, is another game in itself. How long did that adjustment take to be playing overseas basketball when you first started playing?
Obviously, after that first year prepared me for the rest of my career because it got easier after that, for sure. So having the worst coach of a career, your first year as a pro, made it a lot easier, and we had a lot of success,
Sure,
and kind of helped me build my name over there a bit. Um, so I've been very blessed that I had a long career over there. I played for 11 years, 10 years,
oh wow,
and you know, was lucky to win some championships, go into the
sure,
European final, playing against Manu Ginobili when he was
oh wow,
16, Dirk Nowitzki when he was 19,
wow,
uh, played against Dino Raja after he had left the NBA, played against Byron Scott after he had left the Lakers. Uh, just a bunch of awesome experiences and stories that I can, tell my kids and my grandkids and
sure,
you, because it was is really been basketball has really given me a lot of really really cool experiences that I wouldn't, like without them, I don't know where I would have been. I would have been some accountant I'm back to being a geek now. So
sure. Um, what I found interesting, besides the success you had over there and winning 2 championships over there, you start, and this according to Wikipedia, so I don't know how truthful it may be with Wikipedia, but you start off your career overseas in, over in Greece, as you said, with the
yeah,
AEK Athens, and then interesting enough, according to Wikipedia, you finished your career with
I
them.
did.
If so, what was that full circle moment like, where you're finishing your basketball career with the team you started with?
It was kind of planned that way, actually. I thought it would have been pretty cool because they were interested. It was like, oh, it'd be pretty cool to go back to the team that you started at.
Sure.
The difference was that there was different owners. It was the same
Okay.
team name with different owners. Uh, my last year there, they didn't have as much money. The team had been down and out for a little bit, so it wasn't the same. So we weren't like, we're more like a middle of the pack kind of team
Oh,
at that point. But and my role was a little bit more, a little different because I was one of the older players. So my role is more coming off of the bench a little bit more and playing less minutes, but just being like a veteran, a big man to come in and give some spot minutes here and there. So it was a little different. But being back in Greece and being back in Athens was, which is a very very cool town, a cool city to live in, and with some awesome food and
sure.
cool people.
For you, it's one thing to play with that, and another thing to transition as you have into this other world instead of sort of flubbing around trying to figure what you're doing. And you mentioned that you're now back to being a geek after you start off that thing going to become a jock with basketball.
But
For you after, because I read in that same Your interview, you tried coaching and then you went back to the tech world. What was that? What's it like to be back to one of your other favorite things, but now doing it as another career?
it feels great. It feels good that like I was always into computers, always, always, always. And uh, even like during college, the internet had just started, so I kind of kept learning about all the cool stuff. I even took a very very early web design class that your was putting on. It's kind of funny, like moving gifs and all that stuff, the way that like the websites were back then. And the internet had just come out, as I said, and email was brand new. It had only been like 2 years or something like that. So yeah, being like going back to the tech world was something that came pretty naturally because once I knew basketball was not something I could or wanted to pursue, I didn't want really being a coach at that level was not really something that was appealing at the time because I had two little kids and I knew that if I
Sure,
was going to be a real successful coach, I would have to do a lot of traveling and be on the road a
sure,
lot. And at that point, that was not something that I really could commit to.
sure,
So then I started looking into like, what else can I do? Because it's kind of hard to go out and find a job when you had been playing basketball for the last 14 years.
sure,
What experience do you really have to give an employee or employer? So I started my own company, and what did I know more about? Same besides basketball was technology and computers,
sure.
and that's that's how that's got started.
Before we end today, I want to briefly just talk about current stuff. When we first started talking, you had mentioned your son was playing a tournament. For you to watch him play nowadays and have success, and probably play in college and have success there, what's that like for you as a parent now?
It's it's very I'm I am really conflicted in that because I think I've been maybe overemphasizing basketball a little bit too early for him. I mean, if I
Sure,
look back now, I probably started him too early. He seems a little burned out. It's been a long AAU season, so
sure,
it's very natural. He's going to take like a week off, but he has to get back on the grind next week. We go into a couple elite camps. A few colleges want to see him, so just gonna grind it. But he loves it.
sure,
He wants to play the next level in college, and hopefully he'll get there. If not, it's okay. But every time I watch him, I'm very extremely nervous, way more
sure,
nervous than if I played myself,
sure,
because I just want him to do well, and it's very frustrating at times because you want him to do well, and you can sometimes when he doesn't, and
sure,
you can't do it for him,
sure,
and the frustration you see on his face. But yeah, no, he loves it, and I love the fact that he loves it, and it's been a big part of his life too, and still
sure,
is. And he's going into his senior season at St. George's, and hopefully it's going to be a successful one. He lost the season obviously with
yeah,
COVID, and and they tried to play a little bit, but it was basically
yeah.
a no season. And then he got COVID
Oh
his
wow,
his last season, so he kind of missed out on a few games there, and he got injured right before the season started. So season was a little bit messed up there too. But finally, by the end, he got into a groove a little bit and improved. But his numbers were not the way he wanted them to be. And so now, I was like, now it's your senior season. Go out and make sure you're prepared for it. I guess I can't do it for you.
Sure, and I'm sure that this also, strengthens your bond with him because it's something that you love so much, basketball, and it's something that he loves so much and that he wants to continue, and he's passionate because, and myself just playing rec basketball, that's a hectic experience as it is, but you see a lot of parents, younger parents, they get frustrated and they force their kids to do stuff that maybe they want to do, but if it comes naturally, it may be a better environment for them. Nowadays at URI, especially recently, and maybe you've seen it, maybe you don't want to pay attention to it. There's a lot of conversation of showing, I think, the past respect in terms of what they were able to accomplish and do at URI and give them the credit they deserve because they brought a lot to help URI be the school that they are and retiring this number or that situation or just doing whatever it may be. For you, when the time comes, because it has to happen, what would it mean to you, I should say, if your number gets retired and you get that call from whoever the athletic director is to say, hey, we want to retire your number, Michael?
Well, that would be a tremendous honor. I do not think that's going to happen. I don't think I have the stats for that. But yeah, I would be very honored, of course. Having your number retired is always a great honor. But I'm very humble. I don't think that's obviously up to other people to decide. But we went to the tournament. I was a big part of that, of course. Of those two teams there. Fun part is if I didn't redshirt, if I had redshirted the year, my freshman year, as I was supposed to, I would have been on that Elite Eight team. And another big body that could have probably helped out a bit there. So if I make that team, then you have a case for, okay, hey, he was on his team, he did this. Maybe we retire his number, but I don't need my number to be retired to feel like I accomplished anything. I'm very happy with my career. I ended up having a long career overseas. So I'm tremendously happy with what happened at URI. It was probably the 4 best years, definitely, besides having my kids and my wife. Those 4 years, I treasure them extremely, really high in my life because they were so much fun and such a great experience, and I couldn't really have asked for more.
Before we go here today, there's a little segment I want to do called the one word challenge. So what I'll do is I'll throw out a few names of people, places, or things that have some connection to my guest this week, Michael Andersen, and he'll do his best to think of a word or two or a sentence that best comes to mind. So are you ready?
Yep.
First one, Denmark.
Home.
Kingston, Rhode Island.
Second home.
Keeney Gym.
The best place to play. Just one word, but
technology.
Work.
Success.
Happy.
Al Skinner.
Cool.
Cuttino Mobley.
Funny.
And last but certainly not least, Michael Andersen.
Proud.
Well, I would hope to be proud because you've certainly accomplished a lot and been around for some stuff that holds a lot of value to people. And like this, it means a great deal to talk to someone who is a big time person and a well-known person in URI athletics. So Michael, as I said before, thank you a lot for doing this. It means a lot.
You're welcome.
For all those out there, because who wouldn't enjoy this, down the road when Michael gets inducted into the URI Athletics Hall of Fame, you're going to say, oh my gosh, you should have tuned in this at the time it was out. So subscribe, like, comment, share, all that fun jazz. Follow on Twitter, Nolan Carr at Night, and on Instagram, Nolan Carr at Night. Michael, is there anything that you would like to put out there, plug, promote, any of that nature?
No, well, if you need any technical support with your business, we don't do residentials anymore. So with your business, you can go to ost247.com. We have support plans that will help your business stay secure in this crazy IT landscape.
Well, in that note, I will end with this. Thank you all for tuning in. And until next week, friends, take care and good night.